Hi, my name is Darlene. I am Darlene's Garden Channel. I just, within the last week maybe, learned about Shedwars, and I've listened to several videos describing it, giving the rules and all that. I decided I want to attempt being a part of this group because my goal in gardening is to be as self-sufficient as possible. And I like to share things that I'm doing. In my regular videos that won't be part of the Shed Wars, I also show some of my cooking and preserving. And I think if it's a direct result of my self-sufficiency, I can add some of my preserving ones, but to add any cooking just because those will just have to be not part of the Shed Wars, if I understand correctly. So I'm hoping that I understand how this all works. I know I was to have an introduction video by February 15th, and today is February 5th, so I'm 10 days early. I will enjoy making friends with all of you, and I know a few of you that are on this I already know. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that I'm doing right now to start this self-sufficient journey for the year 2021. My sweet potato slips are starting to grow there, and I just started this one today, so it will be a while. In the quest to be self-sustaining, I have my onions started. Some of them are looking quite good, others are kind of leaned over. Up here, I have some flowers, and they just came up, part of them aren't up yet. A few of those are up, but not very many. Over here, I have artichokes that will go out in the garden. Up here I have some other things planted that haven't come up yet. I just got these 3-tiered things yesterday. If you look in my regular videos, you'll see my mail call where I got them. And I took some of the plants from up here. These are all cool weather plants, and planted some of them in here. So that should, as soon as it gets warm enough outside, this will start going outside. I have peas, basil, Tiny Tim tomato that's blooming, another Tiny Tim tomato that's blooming, so that I can have some food indoors. Eggplant that so far has overwintered. Over here I have a pepper that I am overwintering. That one looks like it's still alive also. I believe that's just a second, that went weird, wonky on me. I don't know, I'd have to touch it to see if it's a lemon balm or it might be a lemon balm. Here I have a comfrey. Its main purpose is going to be taking leaves off and using for mulch, although I think it does have some medicinal purposes also. Back here is another eggplant that I've overwintered. So in a few weeks, it's still pretty cold out, so I'm having to wait to do much outdoors yet. But my goal is to have as much of my own grocery food lettuce, brassicas, tomatoes, peppers, you name it. If I can grow it, I'd like to have it to be as self-sufficient as possible. I live in town, in the city limits, so I don't have chickens. I am allowed, according to city regulations, to have up to 5 chickens, but no rooster. However, my husband doesn't want to bother with the chickens, so I have no chickens. And we don't have the space for any other kind of animal, outdoor animal. I do have my worm bins, so that I make my own worm castings for my garden. And I have a big huge compost pile that is mostly leaves that fell during the fall. And I will be using those in my garden. So I'm trying to be as self-sufficient as I can while living within the city limits. It's a small town, only about somewhere between 12 and 17,000. I'm not sure exactly the population, but it's not very. Did I say thousand? That isn't what I meant. 12 to 1,700. That's a 4-digit number. I think it's more like 12. 1200. So that is a small town. We have our own school. It's a high school and an elementary school. For middle school, the kids go to a neighboring town that's kind of across the highway. The big cities that we are near, some of you might laugh because these are probably not that big. Walla Walla, Washington, and Pendleton, Oregon. We're about halfway in between the two. Zone 6A, Northeast Oregon. We're about just a tad over 10 miles from the Oregon-Washington border. And we're a couple of hours from the Washington-Idaho border if we go like toward Lewiston, Clarkston. Clarkston's Washington and Lewiston is Idaho, and they're all one big metropolitan area, or small metropolitan area, as the case may be. We're about 4 hours from Boise, Idaho, about 4 hours from Spokane, Washington, about 4 hours from Portland, Oregon, and it's a bit further to Seattle. So that's our location. We're kind of not high desert. We're kind of desert, but not high desert. Land that hasn't had anything done to it is generally sagebrush. The main farming around here is wheat and peas, canola, potatoes. A little further west by about 25-30 miles, there's a town named Hermiston, and they're famous for their watermelons and cantaloupes and stuff like that. I personally haven't had good luck growing watermelons or cantaloupe. Our growing season is fairly short since it's 6B, I mean. So my last frost is around the middle of May, and my first frost in the fall is toward the end of September, usually. The reason I wanted to take part in this is so that I could really focus in on providing more food for my family, figuring out how to be as self-sustaining as I can be within the circumstances that I find myself. And so that's my introduction video to SHEDWARS21.